tonight to speak on something not on the agenda, not on the agenda tonight. To speak on something else other than the agenda. Commissioners, we're going to do for item 5, adoption of the minutes. I have 5.1 to discuss and approve the minutes for September 12th, 2024. Do I have a question for a motion for the minutes for September 12th, 2024? I have a motion to approve the minutes for September 12th, 2024. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 5.2, we discuss and approve the minutes for September 26th, 2024. Commissioners?
I'll move to approve the minutes from September 26, 2024.
I have a motion to approve the minutes for September 26th, 2024. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, motion carries. All right, we're gonna go ahead and open the public hearing. Just before we get started, I'm gonna go ahead and say, I know we got a few people that are out here want to speak tonight. Just keep in mind, please keep about a 3-minute time frame as you come up and speak. There's quite a bit here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just call, they gave me a list here, I'm gonna go ahead and call you up one at a time. Please come up, keep in mind, respect the 3 minutes, that's whatever you have to say. Okay, we're gonna start out with, Ms. Mary Dempsey, Darcy, please. Come on up. Sorry about that. Yes, ma'am. Mary Darcy Clean. Okay. Go ahead and state your address, ma'am, please.
Yes, my name is Mary Darst Kling, and I live at 5909 Luther Lane in Dallas, Texas, 75225. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to talk to you about the Evening Star project. I'm representing the property owners. Part of the land being discussed was first bought in 1878 by our great-great-grandfather. And along with my sister and 2 cousins, by the way, we all grew up in Terrell and we graduated from Terrell High School. We are the 5th generation to own this property. And we have held it for many years before deciding that it was time to move forward. We know growth is coming to Terrell. So about 2.5 years ago, we began the process of finding a highly qualified real estate broker to find a buyer who would have a vision for how to best meet the needs of Terrell's future. The buyers then engaged a highly qualified and regarded professional team of planners who began to work closely with the city of Terrell on the Evening Star project. And it was named because of the community and the school that used to be on this property and the surrounding land. Many conversations and meetings have taken place in order to comply with the city's requests and requirements. Some of the family members have attended some of the meetings, and we have always been impressed with the level of detail that is being discussed and involved in the project, and how willing the planners have been to make adjustments to meet those requests. And we want to publicly tonight commend all who have worked for the past 2 years to create this thoughtful new chapter for Terrell. We appreciate the cooperation being shown by the City of Terrell and the team of the buyers, and to ensure that this place will be a place Terrell will be proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time. Okay, we have Johnny Beans, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Please state your address, please, sir.
Yeah, my name's Johnny Bean. I live at 16551 North State Highway 34, Terrell, Texas. My property butts up to this land about 5,000 feet, combined property lines. So it's going to affect me and my family a lot. I'm also a Terrell taxpayer. I own property in Terrell, although I'm not in Terrell out there next to that property. The property has a lot of issues that need to be addressed, not to mention the traffic, which is going to have a tremendous impact on that road. There's also the boundary issues as far as how they're going to keep people, animals, and so forth off the working farm that I have next to it. We run cattle on that property, and it could be dangerous to kids and so forth, as well as they can do damage if they get out on the street. So they need to make sure that they take proper precautions when they develop this. There's also water issues. In 3 locations, I have water drainage during the rains onto this property, this development. And if it's not dealt with properly, it's going to back up and cause me problems. I'd like y'all to consider all these things, and with what I know at this time, I am against this project. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have Lewis, I'm sorry, Sir Maj Jr.
I ask if the Porters can speak before I do.
John Porter.
John and Martha, if she's speaking, her family.
I'd like to have is John. I'll take that in account, yes, sir.
I'll speak after them, please.
Okay. John Porter.
We work together, but it's enough. Good evening. My name is John Porter, and my address is 14891 FM 986 Terrell. I am part of the Porter Farm family that's been here since the early years of the founding of Terrell. I have enjoyed growing up in this community, raising a family here, and now I'm looking forward to a daughter's family, moving back here and beginning to be a part of managing Porter Farm. I'm thankful to have had my 76th birthday, and I'm especially blessed to be able to still physically maintain and manage the pastures on about 700 acres of Porter Farm, including about 235 acres that I lease from my cousins, that will be Martha, that adjoins Evening Star. I'm not here to oppose Evening Star, but I want you to know that I'm adamantly opposed to the plan of the city of Terrell to install a public walking or bike trail across the eastern and southern property lines of my cousin's property on Porter Farm. My experience of a lifetime informs me that this will be very detrimental to the cattle operation on the acres which adjoin this proposed trail. The trail will follow the Porter Farm property lines for over 3,000 feet. It is not unusual for there to be 150 to 200 yearling steers or heifers grazing in that area, and of course, they graze right up to the property line. Recently weaned from their mothers, these yearlings are like young teenagers. They're not seasoned with life experiences, and they're very excitable. Having strangers of all ages and behaviors traveling on this long trail will be very unsettling for the cattle. There will be barking dogs, kids that shout and taunt the animals. Not that most people intend any harm, but they don't understand how to interact with cattle properly, and there will no doubt there will be instances where the yearling herd will be alarmed and a stampede will occur. I've seen it. It never ends well. It can be very costly to the owner of the cattle. The city of Terrell has indicated that they need an easement along the property line of my cousin's Porter Farm land in order to provide water to the Evening Star development. I have no problem with this. Once installed, it's underground and it's harmless. But there is no need for a public trail above ground on this waterline easement. The Evening Star development and the Hillside development will have extensive green space with miles of walking and bike trails. It is not right to endanger a cattle operation by constructing a long public path to connect these two developments. Thus, I appeal to each of you on the P&Z Commission. If you're satisfied with the plans of Evening Star, then certainly vote to approve moving it forward. But the trail is the idea of the city, and I would appreciate your asking the development staff to delete the walking and bike trail from the waterline easement before this proposal is presented to the city council. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Okay, sir. Mr. Lewis, Jeremiah Jr.?
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
Martha Hooper would like to go next.
Oh, Ms.
She is the director and property owner of.
Martha, okay. I have you at the bottom. Come on, Martha Jones Hooper.
That's me. First of all, I want to thank all of you for allowing me to be here. It's truly a pleasure, and this process for the last 3 or 4 months for
Excuse me, Mike,
me.
your address, please?
Oh, my name is Martha Hooper, 4413 Larchmont, Dallas, Texas, 75205. Okay, but I just want to thank you all. I've learned a lot, I've met a lot of people, and anyway, all is good as far as that goes. Although I live in Dallas, my family has owned a large property on the southwestern side of the proposed Evening Star development for nearly 150 years. And I'm thinking y'all know which land we are, because it's, or I have a map I can show you. I'm sure you know what it is. Anyway, I am speaking on behalf of all the owners of this property, which includes my uncle and his kids and my deceased mom's descendants. We, our children and grandchildren, have enjoyed this land for decades of fishing, swimming, hunting, and hiking. Our cousin John Porter currently runs cattle on our property, as he just mentioned to you. We realize that Terrell is growing and change is coming. We do not oppose the development of a nice single-family neighborhood next to our property if this commission were to recommend the following regulations to be included as part of the ordinance rezoning of the Evening Star property. Most critical to me and my family and to the welfare of our property is that the trail easement bordering our fence lines to the southeast and southwest should be removed. Users of a public trail will be tempted to trespass, litter, shoot at cattle, or worse. As drawn, this was something I woke up last night and realized, it could impede our access to the current road 318, our county road 318. And that's important to us because right now we have a handshake agreement with John that we can go through his property, but if something ever happened, we don't have access. So that looks like the way it's drawn, going through there. We understand the developer does not want to have a trail outside of the development, and that this is the recommendation of the city staff. Now, the following requests have been mostly agreed upon by the developer and city staff to recommend to this commission. And I greatly appreciate the time that the developer people and Mr. Rex and everybody else has taken with us. The development should include an 8-foot-tall wooden brick or masonry wall along the part of the southwestern boundary of the development where homes are planned to maintain our security and privacy. City staff and developer recommend a 6 to 8 foot tall fence. Thank you, that was great. Originally, they were telling us it was going to be see-through iron or whatever, but they've accommodated us. The developer should be required to join us in requesting Kaufman County Abandoned County Road 321 or 318 or whatever the Kaufman County's calling it these days. I don't know if y'all have noticed that, but it's always something different. Along the southwestern boundary of the development in our property. This road has not been used in decades and is impossible. The developer and the city staff have agreed to this as well. Streetlights should be shielded or hooded such that the light emitted is directed downward. The developer and city staff have agreed to this. The developer should be required to provide drainage patterns and controls such that our property and others downstream are not adversely affected by storm drainage runoff from the development. The developer and city staff have agreed to this. If these requests were adopted by the city and implemented by the developer, we believe they would greatly reduce the negative impacts this development could have. We greatly appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your time. Okay, we'll continue with Mr. Lewis.
Moved on you.
Your address, please, sir?
Say it again.
State your address, please.
6711 Green Meadow Lane, Terrell, Texas, or Portree, Texas, 75160.
Thank you, sir.
I've got a lot of history with Porter Farms. Whenever I was a little kid, they let us show cattle out there as a FFA member. And John Porter's dad let me put a show calf there to get bred by their Hereford bull after I showed it. I've raised a granddaughter there over the last 18 or 19 years. Excuse me, I get very emotional. My dad raised grain. We worked on the Porter farms there, selling grain to them and such. In 2003, John made a contract with me to run yearlings. The yearlings and cattle that they're talking about are mine. I own them. The cattle are very flighty. They get very scared very easily. John, you can ask John, we go out there at times, we find fences knocked down. We may, he had to work in one place where the cattle got scared about 6 or 8 months ago, and it took 6 or 8 hours to actually fix the fence. They had tore down so much fence. If you put this walkway close to John's property, or Martha's property rather, then you're gonna have a problem with cattle breaking out, getting on the highways. Years ago, I had a cow out on the highway. 2 men were killed because of the wreck. I am very careful about the things that I do and trying to keep my cattle off the roads. If you let people walk up and down right where these flighty cattle are at, then we're gonna have a problem with them tearing down fences, getting on the roads. I'm gonna be the one that gets blamed. I'm gonna be the one that gets sued. Anybody that owns that land will get sued along with them, and it's a bad deal when that happens. I would ask you, if you put a walkway in, put it somewhere where there's a barrier between so cattle cannot see this. And I'd appreciate if you did that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Okay, we have Rocky Yates. Good evening, sir. Go ahead and state your address, please, sir.
I'm Rocky Yates. I'm at 15971 North State Highway 34. Kind of wrote down some stuff quickly on the way here. I have here to oppose on my behalf of my family and their property. I have nothing against the Miracle Carker Darst family. I've had great communications and discussions with them over the years. They're very nice people. I understand their reasons of selling their family land, and I wish them the very best. By the way, all of my neighbors are very great people. I love them like I love my family. On my end, I do not see how a development on 2 sides of our land would be beneficial. My concerns is I went down several roads with the city of Terrell on annexation of our property. I feel like I was strong-armed into a non-annexation agreement as I purchased my four parcels in the country, not to be in the city, basically be in the county. I did not purchase it to be around the neighborhood. How would this affect my property lines, my interests to my property, my privacy, and my property value? Who would police my property, the county or the city, for any reason any criminal issues would arise? My other concerns I'm really passionate about is the wildlife. I work hard to populate the wildlife there on the property and around. Being the white-tailed deer, the eagles that are nesting around there, the wood ducks that are nesting, the wild hogs, there is a very lot of wild hogs, varmints as well. The wildlife have a perfect habitat there. I've been involved biologists when I bought the property, and they obviously said the same. Another concern to think about is how will the new homeowners be affected by, like, the wild hogs rooting up their yards, the varmints like the coyotes, bobcats, mountain lions, have seen mountain lion there, roam around their houses, their families, and their pets. Country living is not city living. Another concern that I have is the issue about the federal CWD, which is chronic wasting disease, which is in the area. This area is zoned for that. It comes from the white-tailed deer. It is the same, basically the same as the mad cow, the scabies disease, and the zombie disease. Federal government and state locals, biologists say the soil is contaminated for 5 years. There is no cure other than euthanizing. It's a big issue. That'd be something I want to look into, research about. It's a very, very big topic now, especially in this area. I introduce a lot of kids and young adults to be out in the outdoors on our land. Just had a first-year college young man take his first deer with a bow a couple weeks ago. Was very excited. I have a father and his daughter and son coming out this weekend from a youth program out of the Dallas Christian School District, or school. It'll be the first time they'll be shooting guns and the first time that they'll be hunting anything, which we're gonna be hunting out of closed blinds, hunting over feeders for the wild hogs. The dad had just told me that his kids are more excited on coming out to do this than they was when they were going to Disney World for the first time. I invite a lot of people to come out, a lot of people that don't get out into the outdoors. A lot of veterans come out. We have a great time and they really enjoy it. We do a lot of shooting and hunting on our property. It's our heritage and I hope it will continue to be. Lastly, I know it's all about growth in the mighty dollar bill. If growth is coming around my property, I've got two ways I'm gonna go about this. I'll put up a 10-foot game-proof fence all the way around my property. Don't know how close the houses will be and if they'll like to see that or not, but it'll be a 10-foot chain link fence with barbed wire on top. Or, other option is I will sell to an investor, developer, corporation, or whoever, as I also like the mighty dollar, but it will have to be a lot of it. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, we have Bobby. How you doing, sir?
I'm Bobby Kennemer, 14800 County Road 318. And like the Porters and many people here, my issue is basically with the walking trail that will split between the Porter Farm and my property. The first thing I thought of when Mr. Porter reached out to me is I kind of chuckled to myself. And I invite anybody who thinks there should be a walking trail to be there to come out the next time it rains for 3 straight days. Because I've seen that field 4 or 5 feet underwater, running like a raging river with waves in it, because all that water trickles down and it goes into Kings Creek, which is at the back of my property right there. So that's issue number one I see with it. Number two, the idea of having a trail like that going between woods and fields, can you imagine teenagers and even adults who will use those areas to do drugs and to drink? At the end of County Road 318 is a constant fight to keep people from trespassing on my property because it dead ends right there. People doing drugs on my property, people drinking on my property, kids having relations on my property because it's a dead end road down there. So I can just imagine by adding a trail for them to have places to sneak off to, what that will really do. You know, we struggle with keeping people off our properties now. People want to fish our ponds. People just randomly show up and they'll just be out there trying to fish our ponds and things like that. So it'll just add some more problems for us as homeowners. And like many people said, when we moved out there and we bought these properties, we didn't anticipate the city coming to us. We bought these properties because we enjoy fishing, we enjoy hunting. Everybody in those surrounding properties, we all hunt and fish on these properties. And we're all very careful with each other. We all understand property lines very well. But heaven forbid, somebody's walking up a walking trail when you have people hunting dove out there in their properties, which they can legally do. The fact that he spoke about it, the wild animals, the feral hogs, the coyotes, the bobcats that we have to keep off of our properties because they are detriment to our livestock and to our homes and our dogs and our kids. Like, we physically have to remove them. It's not like we're going to send people out. I mean, feral hogs alone will tear up I mean, they're out there by the hundreds. I mean, I can send you picture after picture. But, you know, you think about that, having a trail going through a bunch of properties that are basically country, I mean, it's gonna be a problem. You're gonna have, my main concern is, how are you gonna keep people off of my property? Because all we have now is barbed wire fence, and a lot of those barbed wire fences are very easy to get through. And unless you're putting up big 8-foot, 10-foot walls to keep people off our properties, I didn't buy my property. I don't want to sit. I enjoy sitting on my back porch and watching the cows out at Mr. Porter's property in the afternoons as they're grazing in the field next door. I don't want to look at a 6-foot, 10-foot, 8-foot wall. That's not what I bought my property for. I bought my property for relaxation. So I would just, would hope and pray that y'all would consider not putting that walking trail in. I understand the growth of Terrell. I understand I'm not opposed to the growth of Terrell. I am just opposed to there being a walking trail in a really highly country area that it'll be just a big hassle. I'll just be honest with you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Okay, that's the only ones that I have. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? No? Okay.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. I bring to you the planned development of the Evening Star Development, PD 24-05. The current property is vacant agriculture, and the current zoning is agriculture, and the proposed use tonight is for a planned development. We're presenting this application to you as an administrative tool to get the use of the subject land and share with you some of the highlights of that use for that property. The background: the property is currently zone ag and is located on the west side of the State Highway 34 in Kings Creek headwaters, partially in the city of Terrell's ETJ and partially in the current city limits of Kaufman County, City of Terrell limits of Kaufman County, Texas. The City Council approved Resolution 2167, which is in your packet, on August the 6th, which gives the city manager authority to negotiate the development agreement and the mayor to sign on behalf of the City of Terrell. The current property owners are the Fred Darst Estate, Sarah Miracle, and Jenny Karn, and CML Realty, LLC. The developer, which is also one of the owners, is CM Realty, LLC. The developer, along with the property owners, are proposing a planned development with a base zoning of single-family 6.0 for an all non-executive estate lots, and for the executive estate lots being a half an acre and greater, the base zoning standard shall be executive estates 32.0. The entire property development being 499 acres of approximately 999 single-family residents, 700 multifamily resident units, with 194,000 square feet of neighborhood services and 29 acres of commercial retail uses, 11.3 acre community center with amenities, and a 15-acre regional park, and then a future school site of 16 acres. The property owners and developer have requested to volunteer and annex into the City of Terrell city limits, rezone their property to this planned development with terms and conditions, which will be explained to you in the ordinance. A development agreement is currently being negotiated between staff and the development team. The proposed zoning would comply with all the planned use of the property, as well as the City of Terrell's comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, and all other codes, studies, and plans as applicable. 23 letters were sent out to adjacent property owners within the 200-foot buffer zone. We also advertised it as per state guidelines in our Terrell Tribune. And we received 11 responses by mail or email. And and 8 were in favor, 3 were not in favor. Today, I received an additional 3 by email. I provided you copies of that email. It is not in our publication, and nor was it made part of when this agenda went live last Friday, but it is in there and is now a part of the record. If approved tonight, this application will be presented to City Council on November the 5th for discussion and consideration based on your recommendation. The development agreement negotiations will continue. The property owners will submit an application of annexation, and the developer will be requested to submit a construction pad application that will come back before you for your review and consideration and recommendation to council. Staff does recommend approval of this ordinance 3064 for this planned development of PD 24-05 for the Evening Star development. If you will turn over to the next page, you will see Resolution 2167. That is what the mayor signed, giving the city engineer continued negotiations on the development agreement. The next page is our actual concept plan on page 21. So I tell you what, let's go to the location map just to get you acclimated. I know several of you have already driven the project. So if you'll go to our location map on page 32, you will see where Virginia and State Highway 34 come together. As you travel going north, you'll see the property, which is in red, outlined in blue. That first square in the red, which you can see better on the next map, is on the next page, the zoning map in green. That is the property that the developer, CM Realty, has already purchased from the landowners as a good faith. There's like 32 acres, I believe, and that is in the city limits, but that is a purchase already by the developer. The remaining area that's in blue will be purchased once this PD is the consideration, and if approved, then the landowners will move forward with the contract with the landowners. The developers will move forward with the contract with the landowners to finalize that sale. Okay, so going back to page 21 on our concept plan. So when you're traveling down 34, there's going to be one entrance in and one entrance out. The developer has plans for a dual in and a dual out, whether they're going north or south, and they will comply with TxDOT regulations since State Highway 34 is a TxDOT state facility. When you pull into the development, on the left and the right will be neighborhood services, small box, maybe a post office, there might be a laundromat. They haven't worked out those issues, and that's entirely on the developer's discussion and negotiations. However, each of those applicants will have to apply for a permit from the city of Terrell. So those could be or could not be, depending on the use and what the zoning for that small area right there come before you. As you move through, on the right were the items 1, 2, and 3. That's the multifamily units that I spoke about. Going forward into the property, you'll start seeing the phases. Phase 1 is on the left. Then on the right, you'll see the future school pod. Keeping going back through, the further you go into the development, the larger the lots are. Right, if you'll turn to the next page. Oh, let's talk about the walking trail real quick. So the area where it shows it starts from the Evening Star development and it goes down to the south and hooks off to the west, that will connect into the Hillside development. Within that walking trail is going to be a 10-foot easement where we will supply water, sanitary sewer to the development. Because the Hillside is going to have a public parks inside their development, the city tasked the developer to put in a trail for us, and they've agreed to a 10-foot concreted trail where you could ride bikes or walk from one park in one hillside development over to the alleged Evening Star development. Okay? All right, going forward, we've got the application on the next page. There's two applications. There's one by the existing property owners, and then the second one is by the Sam Realty, who owns those 32 acres. Next page is the location map that we discussed, followed by the zoning map, and then the future land use. The last map is the buffer map, which shows the areas that written notifications were sent to those property owners within that 200-foot buffer zone. And again, we did run that in the paper. The next 3 pages are the list of those owners. On page 39 is the actual public hearing notice that was sent and advertised in the Tribune. On page 41 starts the responses, and they're combined in either in favor or not favor. I do want to read and make it a statement on here on the 3 that we received today. The first one is from Jennifer Yates, and her address is 15971 North State Highway 34, and her vote is not in favor. Then we have Stella Yates, and she lives at 115 Marquette Street in Forney, and she votes in opposition. And then James R. Yates at 115 Marquette Street in Forney, Texas, and he votes not in favor. And I will close at this time and answer any questions you might have going into the ordinance. No, I'm sorry, this ordinance is the one that was passed, I'm sorry, for the signing and negotiations of the development agreement. Okay, starting on 59 are the owner's deeds proving ownership of the property. And then we have on page 70 the concept plan. So I will direct you to Exhibit E, page 171. Again, today we're presenting the ordinance for the building standards on the property. This defines what the developer is wanting to do, what size the lots are going to be, and it's going to also define then the type of home, the facade, the normal information that you all hear every time that we present one of these to you. So I'm sure you all have already read through this and made yourself acquainted with it. So I will pause in answering questions after the public hearing.
If we have any more questions, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We're going to go item 6.2. We're going to discuss an ordinance of the City of Council of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, providing the creation of the planned development mixed-use residential under the provision of 31A Appendix 2 zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell and certain real property consisting of 499.138 acres of land out of the BBB and CRR County Survey Abstract Number 67, Kaufman County, Texas, and more particularly described by meets and bounds in 3 general warranty deeds attached here to Exhibit A, B, and C, and the conception site attached here to at Exhibit D under the terms of conditioning specified in Resolution 2167 attached hereto as Exhibit E, all of which being made part hereof for all purposes, providing the repeal of conflicting ordinance, providing for their severability, and providing an effective date of PD 24-05. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff?
I have a question. And we are still talking about the Evening Star. I didn't know. Yeah, okay, okay. I didn't understand what you just did there. Okay. Quick question, Jana. I want to understand because of what the citizens here that came forth and spoke in opposition. This walking trail is something I want to understand that the city is requiring the developers to do?
Yes, we were already going to need to purchase an easement for the utilities. That was a given, that it was going to have to be there. So we thought, why not purchase as a fee ownership where we can also put our walking trail to connect one park from another development's park.
So our approval of the standards here will automatically take that in as approved. It's not going to come back to us later for approval for a special use.
No,
or
ma'am.
anything.
The only thing that we would share and bring up at that later time is when we bring you, before you, the construction plat that actually defines, because they're going to submit their construction plats by phases. Of course, they're not able to do it all at one time.
Right.
But they'll submit their application for the construction by phase, the first phase, and that walking trail would be a part of that because they're going to need water, sanitary sewer for their development. So that will be in the phase one.
Okay, so just being clear about this, if we approve it as is right now, the walking trails are given, it's in there.
Yes, ma'am.
So is there any place to revisit that it, at a later time or anywhere to?
Well, it goes hand in hand with, in preparation for that construction. So to separate it from what our administrative responsibility is tonight, it would be better to table this and not move forward on the PD. If
Okay.
you want us to go back and come up with a different plan or take your recommendations. Yes, ma'am.
So to be clear, just to make sure, if we want to listen to the citizens or the neighbors that live in that area that have opposed a walkway, I don't know if it bifurcates someone's property, it sounds like it does, then we should either table it or vote against, because we cannot pull it out today.
If we approve it, it's a done deal.
It's a done deal, yes. What you could do is just table it. However, today, I stand before you and tell you that this application checks all of our boxes, they meet all the requirements, and it's a given that we're going to supply water and sanitary sewer from the hillside development. And the best way to get it to this new development is through this easement, this utility need here. Now, you could say, and Chris, let me ask Chris. And,
Can you supply it without the walking trail?
well, that's what
Well, one thing I would say, coming from the Parks Department, the property owners that are here in opposition, which I understand, like landowners' rights. We're not putting a park on their property, we're putting it next to their property, on a property that's owned by someone else. And it is an inconvenience to them, without a doubt. I mean, they're called growing pains for a reason. Knowing that we have to buy this easement, knowing that there's gonna be two massive developments, and, if they're able to hold onto their land forever and never develop it, then that's great. But I think we've learned that you can never say never on, there's been plenty of times where the people that are never gonna sell to sell. If we have this easement and a developer has agreed to develop this easement into a usable, functional trail, that's something that in the future would want to be done by the Parks Department, and the city would be responsible to paying. I mean, connectivity is huge, walking trails, biking trails, it's something that the citizens have always wanted. So it is tough, I get that, but I always hesitate to pass up an opportunity to have something developed at the expense of a developer over the expense of the.
My concern is more
This
so
into
of
context.
looking at, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
ma'am.
if any one of us sitting here today had no control over someone putting a sidewalk across our property, how would we feel?
Well, if it was on their property, I
It's on-
agree.
Isn't it on their
This is
property?
not on their property.
No, it's
My-
next to it,
And it's
My
a flood
concern here-
zone.
yeah.
It is, It is not on the property?
It's in the back of Mr. Kinnemer, sorry. And part of your property, but it's in the flood zone area.
It's being purchased.
Doesn't matter, is it on your property?
And
Is
it
it on
will
their
be
property?
purchased, and it will be purchased by the city of Terrell.
City of Terrell's gonna actually own the property that they're building this up.
My concern is not, and I understand about parks and, you know, beautification and all that, those things. My concern is safety here. I think that's the big thing here, and not even more so maybe for the cows and all that, but me on the walking trail, you know, is this a good feasible place for a walking trail where there may be wild animals or yearlings, or I don't know about cows and all that, but the cows going, I mean, you know, is this, I understand we're gonna have the easement, you gotta have that, and you gotta have the waterway and all that, but do we have to have a place where we're actually giving people access to go through an area that may not be safe because of the wildlife and
So
everything?
that's been partially addressed, but that's part of the discussions in the PD of what means can we do to ensure that safety, whether it be dark sky, lighting in that area, protection, whatever added safety measures that you can do. She just briefly talked about it. One of the things that's been brought up numerous times by citizens in the city of Terrell is that we don't have any means of a bike trail to get around, any way to walk or exercise. So that's the kind of the scheme and the theme behind this, that we're trying to work with these developers to connect them together. So you could go from Evening Star all the way down through Hillside, cross over into, around Town North, and then possibly get onto the old Witt Ranch, and I'll go all the way to 205. So that would be a back trail that would be quite extensive and quite, you know, someone who wants to run or whatever. So that's some of the theme in trying to achieve, because we don't have any bike trails or routes in the city of Terrell.
So would those bike trails be public?
Yes, absolutely.
Part of the parks system.
Now, keep in mind, any trail that you build, I mean, you're gonna have some kind of wildlife. And there's no way of stopping that. That's just norm. You can't prevent everything. Just keep that in mind, commissioners, as we consider this.
I understand wildlife, but we're talking about cattle, you know, I mean, if it's correct, like I said, I don't know, but if this is the history or what happens, you know, stampedes or cows and disrupting the life flow or whatever, you know.
Well, we'll own the land so that those cattle can't cross over into our property, and so they'll have fences.
What are we gonna have there to prevent the cows?
Well, they'll have fences, and when we purchase that property, part of the appraised value is we're gonna pay for him to relocate his fence, put in a new fence on the remainder. It'll take out the part that the city of Terrell will own, and then so the back of his yard, the back of his property would be shorter to accommodate our 10-foot walking trail utility need.
And this is gonna be a high wall brick fence where,
No, ma'am, and we haven't even worked out those
That part,
details
okay.
of it. We just know that lighting will be needed in that area for safety.
right, of course.
I don't know that I worry about it from a standpoint of cattle getting out. I know that as a large animal owner, I get really bent out of shape when people want to come. I don't want them near my animals, right? And so you have to and I'm all for trails, so let me just start by saying I'm all for trails, and I want a bike path. But I also have to think about, if I am an owner, I mean, this is not the only thing, I have a couple other issues with this, but if I'm an owner and if I can't control who's walking up to my property with my animals, how do I feel? And I don't know how I feel about that just yet. I'm not saying I'm for or against it, I just don't know how I feel about it yet.
There'll be proper setbacks. I'm not saying that we're just going to buy 10 feet, because we'll have to have a setback. The trail itself will be a 10-foot wide concrete path, but we'll have setbacks. So it's not going to be like we're back on the Porter fence, and then 10 feet behind where it will be our property, we'll take in consideration what a nice, safe zone area is through there.
I want to go back to the first question about, can we do the easement without the walking trail or without the trail?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. How badly does the city want this? Because we could possibly make a motion and then amend it to remove the whole entire walking trail according to the Robert rules. So is that, just so you know, we could do that if we wanted to. Instead of tabling this, we could just approve this PD
I just don't think we should
and
be
remove the
involved
walking trail, if that's
that
what.
planning side of things. I mean, we're here to kind of, you know, if we
Well, I
start
mean,
trying
if
to
we have
amend
citizens that are
design.
expressing this concern, I think we ought to take a minute and consider that. I mean, has this been brought up before from the citizens' side, or this is the first you're hearing of it?
This is the first one.
so is this
So
something we need to
everyone
consider?
around us, and Mr. Kinnemer, can you correct me if I'm wrong? Are you in the city limits, or are you in the ETJ, or the ETJ, okay. So, apart from where Hillside is, then there's that gap, it's in the ETJ, and then the CM Realty parcel, the Evening Star, will fully be in the city limits. So everyone else is in the county, basically.
Keep in mind, the whole project will eventually be inside the city limits. So we gotta,
But he's not right now. You're just-
No, he,
But it shouldn't be just about, it has to be about everyone. It has to be about our neighbors.
I understand, but
not
keep it
just-
considered, we do have some that oppose it, but we also, of
Well, I
those
find it
that
interesting
want
that-
this
Well,
trail
but I
there.
find it interesting, if you look at the addresses of those in favor, there's not one that actually lives in Terrell. If, like, look at the ones in favor and look at their addresses where they currently live. I'm not saying they don't own property here, but they don't currently live here. And that's neither here nor there. I just find myself having to think this is a huge deal and a huge development that I think is important, but it's also important to understand that there are folks that live around this that have expressed some concern.
well, Commissioner, if I may say, the 200-foot did not include anyone, and so basically, these are the people that are within that 200-foot buffer zone. So if they're the only ones by law required to make a public comment about it.
Right, but the ones, like she said, that were in favor, yes, they may own the property or whatever, but they don't physically live there, so it's not physically affecting them. These people, it's physically affecting them, their property, their animals, their livelihood. So I'm saying, and to me, since this is first just now brought up, I think it's something to just say, hey, let's look at it. You know, let's just hear what they're saying. And what can we possibly do if we can come into a amenable agreement between everybody and then move forward. That's the reason why I was saying, I don't, you know, to me, to just say we're gonna approve this and move forward, to just completely negate what they're saying, and then later we have problems, do we want to take a minute and just look at it and say what we can do to possibly prevent those problems?
I just want to caution all the commissioners with that thought here. Just because they physically doesn't live there, I don't think it's categorically that you can put them in a box that they don't care or have no
Oh,
intentions
no, I
of
didn't say that.
land.
I didn't say that.
So to route out.
I'm just saying it's not
Root
affecting
out
them.
that they have no concerns about what they're doing. We don't know what their plans are.
No, I didn't
So
say
we just
they
got to be
didn't.
cautious about how we use that. I just want to,
I mean, there-
Also, the people that oppose don't live here either. These people live in Forney.
Yeah.
It's not Terrell.
And-
So we need
Keep
to
in mind
look
what we
at
have
that as
here.
well.
We
You know,
have
one young man spoke, said that he lived like off County Road 319, so that walking trail does not go around the entire community. It's
Right.
connecting Hillside to
Right.
Evening Star, so it's not going all around and invading their property. So it's just connecting those two new communities.
And the city has done,
So, with that being said, I don't see any direct impact. And right now, we're focusing on only one thing, and that's, is that not zone change? It's
Yes,
zone
ma'am.
change.
that is correct.
That is,
and just keep
We're
in mind.
That's our
determining a
primary
use of
focus
the
tonight is zone
property.
change.
So with regard to that, can I ask, can someone break down, and I'm clearly missing something, because when I look at the math at 499 acres, and I see single-family on .5 acres, and I see 999 single-family homes, in addition to 790 multifamily residences, in addition, How does that math work?
They're not all on half acres.
They're not all on half acres.
No.
That's what I'm wondering.
Are you trying to decide what's going on in the lots?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the
Well, that's-
breakdown.
We're on zone
That's all
changing, you guys.
conceptually there, so don't,
Let's stay on topic right now.
Yeah, we
regarding-
need
No, it's important.
We really need to stay
Not
focused on
tonight
the
on
zone
that,
change.
it's not on topic, ma'am, okay?
It-
Our
it can
tonight
be
is
on-
actually on the zoning of this
Okay.
property.
It can be because it's a PD, which is written, it's written precisely for site, and it has its own variability because it is a PD, and that's what's great about it. I guess one of my questions might be, given the fact that we have neighbors that have expressed wanting to live out in the country and see the cattle and all these things, perhaps this site doesn't need to be that dense. And that's why I'm asking, that's why it's relevant. Yeah.
But nobody was opposed to
Right.
this
somebody was.
neighborhood.
Okay.
We're focused on the zone change. Nobody
Right.
was
Let's-
opposed to
Yeah,
that.
if we
So I
worry
have a
about density,
question.
we would,
If we approve the zone change today, could there be some more negotiation on that with the homeowners of the properties that are around with the city? Is that possible?
yes.
Okay. All right.
Wait, what do you mean by
Zone
that,
change.
exactly?
Basically, he's saying that if we approve the zone change, there could be some more discussion about that trail in the
At a
future.
later time.
We are
Yes,
just doing the zone change today
That's
and
all
nothing
we're
else.
focusing on
But the-
tonight is
but
zone
Isn't the
change.
trail part of the zoning?
Well, it is, but as Commissioner Carrera stated, during parliamentary procedures, we can say that you're approving it based on the actual development on the subject property, excluding the easement and water trail.
And just keep in mind, the
I-
easement and the water share is gonna be there.
Yes.
And if they're gonna, and if
and the purchase has not been made, the taking has not happened on the land yet.
No, sir, it's all hinging on this PD tonight.
So if this PD is approved, then they would be obviously allowed to negotiate prior to a taking suit, eminent domain.
Yes.
And in that case, I would probably say water is, I mean, it's a hot button in Texas. It's a pretty easy eminent domain. So what you want is to ask for these fencing setbacks. You know, you're moving your fence, but how about a buffer fence also to keep people from being able to go up against the fence and feed your cows a handful of oats and things? But that the taking suit is definitely something that if we exclude it from this, it's still going to have to be done as part of the PD.
We'll have to bring it back to you as a separate item.
And is it possible for the developer to speak to if this is, I mean, the development can't go forward without water.
That's correct.
And it might go just city council only, because we're having to acquire land. It would be back. And I think it would not be brought back before you on the trail. It would just go to city council for their action, for the approval to move forward on the acquisition.
Yeah, because I'm a big fan of walking trail. I'm also a big fan of wildlife and cows and cattle and family business. So
Okay.
it's just impossible for us to, I think we'd be making a mistake to shut down something like this over that concern when that concern can be dealt with common sense.
I agree.
And, you know,
Okay.
I think the city wants that, and I know the Porters want that, and everybody that lives out there wants that. Because this development, I mean, it's easy to say somebody that's moved here in the last 10 years doesn't really have a case, but when you're a founding person of the town, you probably have about as good of a case as anybody to development issues. So we want to be appreciative of our history for sure, but,
I think it's a great
agree.
development and everything's good, but like I said, just the concern of the walking trail. And that's the only reason I was asking, is there a way to revisit that or maybe do some negotiating?
We'll just need you to make a motion, on, that you're going to vote for it, but for only the development on the properties owned by, and call out the names, and excluding the walking trail, the water, the easement, the utility easement, and the walking trail
I
connection.
have a question.
Well, the utility easement's got to happen for the water.
Have
Just
we
saying.
gotta have the utilities, we gotta have the easement.
Easement, yes.
Is the easement obviously has to be done?
Yeah.
That needs to be approved. My question is that why is the walking trail absolutely tied to the easement?
Because we have to buy that anyway, and we've chosen a route through that flood zone area. And so to connect from the hillside development to this Evening Star, we wanted to do a dual purpose. So we were going to put our walking trail right on top of our buried waterline sewers. We're going to own it anyway.
City owns it, cities, or the developers are building it out, correct?
Well, that's part of the development
That's not a
agreement.
cost that we're gonna do. We're gonna buy the land anyway, we're gonna have it, we gotta have that easement.
Right.
Okay, now I understand
with you.
and I understand the concerns in regards to safety. There's a lot of measurements that we can do to that, and I'm pretty sure the city is not gonna just let it out there in regards to that, so,
And let's go back to the fact that this is just a zoning,
correct.
Yes.
please.
So, all right, any other questions?
I do. With regard to zoning, only because I do is there opportunity, so when I look at this PD, I see single-family homes that are literally slammed up against property line. And I can appreciate that there might be some neighbors that do live in the country that still want to live in the country and don't, and seeing the back of someone's house is probably not something that they would appreciate. Is there opportunity to create buffers around other individuals' property lines so that they don't, it's one thing to max out a site and say, it's my site, I can go to the edge. It's another thing to say, I'm going to be sensitive to my neighbor and I'm going to develop because development is coming. But if someone is really, if it's important to someone, a neighbor, to live in the country and have that experience, I kind of feel like we need to be mindful of that. And I'd love to talk about creating landscape buffers and offsets that are a little bit more than just right up against the line.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, and I know exactly what your wishes are. We have to remember, this developer has spent the time and the research and the efforts and money to find out what type of development would survive, would work out here in this area. So to make a selection for our community, you have the smaller lots, the smaller prices, and then as you go through, the lots get bigger and the buffer areas get larger till you're back at the very rear of the property where the larger lots are, the executive estates. When you look at Exhibit E that will be attached to this ordinance, it talks about the requirements in the backyard, it talks about the landscaping, the fencing. So there will be those types of conditions. It also talks about the landscaping between the multifamilies to the neighborhood services area. So those conditions, not only for safety, but for the comfort of this community, have been well thought in, and everything's been reviewed and complies with the city of Terrell. And that's why it's identified in the PD and then thus into the development agreement.
Thank you, ma'am.
I did have one more question in terms of the entrance here. Obviously, I work for the county. I'm in the fire marshal, so safety is what I do every day, all the time, right? I only see one entrance coming out of Texas 34. If I'm not mistaken, the PD kind of, that did something to the Terrell Fire Code in terms of how many entrances are required to this property. If something happens to, a question would be, how wide is that road?
That's going to be a major thoroughfare. If you see the blue line through there.
Major
it's gonna be
thoroughfare?
It's going to be a 4-lane highway with a median in the middle. And then trails, sidewalks on both sides. So it's going to be a major corridor down through there and basically, a miniature highway.
Miniature highway. And then I see that.
Naturally, we're going to work with TxDOT
get that
on that. There'll
municipal
probably be an
collector?
intersection based off the traffic study that it gets produced. So that's going to probably be a common thing that's going to happen. But those are things to come.
Okay, I want to make sure that's right in the forefront, because if something happens to that major highway, all these people are stuck here. And then that's That's the whole idea of why the fire code exists, to prevent things like this, right? It's all about mitigation. So if that four-way highway, how many times have we seen the highway get fully closed because of an
Absolutely.
emergency? Now, all these people with these cul-de-sacs are all stuck in their place. They cannot move, you know? But that's just some food for thought. I would like for this to be tabled until we have more information or have an opportunity to do so, but I'll turn.
You know, this is the second time we've looked at this, don't you?
Was it the second time?
Yeah, this is
Yes,
the second
this
time.
is actually our third time to have
Yeah.
it on the agenda, and we've tabled it twice.
Well, the reasons
So-
are out of our hands. It wasn't
Yeah.
because we wanted to table this, it's because they were not ready.
We weren't, yeah, the first was the
Right, so if you
ordinance.
remember correctly, it wasn't our fault technically. It was on
We-
their side that they
We
weren't
had
ready.
the developer,
time they wasn't.
engineer, his name is Mitch Hesse, and
So, yeah, just real
Mitch-
quick, he pointed out, it's very hard to see with the blue line.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's information that should have been here.
And we're not getting it. I mean, I try to blow it up too, but there's no indication. I work with plants every day.
See where the hand is?
Yeah,
There's gonna be another there. So,
Another entrance.
there's gonna be
another entrance? Okay, all right.
Would the city of Terrell ever approve a subdivision without proper fire code? I mean, I get what you're saying, I get your concern, but if we start worrying about every
No, I
little
work with
thing-
those guys on the daily. They're doing a good job. But you just never know.
I mean,
will-
I would say TxDOT would tell you. I mean, if they know that there's that much density, they're
Oh,
not
yeah, I
gonna
work
approve
with
it,
TxDOT
so
every day too. So
We just,
There are 2 points of connection.
yeah.
points of connections.
Yes, sir. Yeah, one in phase one you see there, and then the second one is the major thoroughfare.
I mean, as our advisory board, we listen to the city, we give our opinion to the council, and then they take it from there. I just think if we start getting into micromanaging fencing and buffers and everything, that's when the developers leave and the property owner sells to somebody who throws in a bunch of 1-acre mobile homes because we don't have any say on it because it's no longer in the city.
Keep
And
in mind
it gets real expensive if we start adding a bunch of things that aren't already on this 6-page list of requirements.
all right, Commissioners, just keep in mind, they're coming into the city limits. Once inside the city limits, I'm pretty sure that our staff, it's what they do, they get paid for this. They're not just gonna come up with some stuff. They're gonna make sure everything's by the book. Any zoning, any requirements, any safety requirements that are need to, okay? Right now, we're just gotta focus on the planning, on the PD 24-05 for this, for tonight, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to say that
Motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I recommend that we approve ordinance number 3064 for the planned development, PD 24-05 of the Evening Star Development.
I have a motion on the floor to approve PD 24-05. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second.
Question.
I have a second to approve PD 24-05. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and just do a hand count real quick.
Make a call.
Okay, we're gonna make a,
She'll call.
we're gonna call the commissioners.
Commissioner Cheney? Well, I love the idea of what the developer's done. I have concerns about density, so I, at this time, have no choice but to say I'm opposed.
Opposed, okay.
Commissioner Malone?
4.
Commissioner Voigt? Commissioner McNutt?
Like to see some consideration regarding the walking trail, so I'm opposed.
Okay, Chairman?
I'm for it.
Okay. Commissioner Cabrera?
4.
And Commissioner Barcella? 4. Thank you.
What's the total, ma'am?
3 opposed?
5-4.
5-4. Okay, we have 5 in favor, so motion carries for PD to approve, motion carries to approve PD 24-05.
Commissioners, next I bring to you It is a construction plant for the Los Lomas development, which is in our ETJ. Excuse me. This development, again, we have plating authority only, and this construction plat was originally brought to you back by the applicant back in June 25th of 2020. So I don't think any of you commissioners were here on this, serving on this board at this time. But they originally, on the original application, they brought us 232 lots for this Phase 1. Well, they discovered that there were 7 additional lots with 1 non-residential lot that, after dealing with some FEMA issues and grading and drainage, that all had been rectified, and these additional lots now could be added to the Phase 1. So today, you're just going for plating authority only. We're asking you to approve an additional 7 residential lots and 1 non-residential lot. Staff has reviewed their drainage studies, their grading permits, all of those things, which they're not turned into our office to any kind of type of permit. Only we review that just because of our plating authority only. So this is an administrative task here that is being brought before you. So if you have any questions about anything else, but staff recommends approval of this construction plat 2413. If approved tonight, and once the lots have been defined and those improvements is implemented, they'll come back with the final plat, which will come back before you for final approval, so they can then start selling lots.
Do these 5 items tie together on this addition and these changes? The 5 action items?
Yes,
Okay.
Well, no, only two, there's only 3 phases for Los Lomas in the ETJ, and the other 2 are for Creekside that are here in our city limits off of Virginia.
But those 3 would come back for final plat approval? So this-
Yes,
Okay. Well, then, if you'll entertain a motion, I'd move to approve action items 7.1 through 7.3 for Las Lomas.
I have a motion to approve 7.1 through 7.3. Do I have another motion?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope, okay, motion carries.
All right, Commissioners, next I bring to you item 7.4, a final plat for Creek Estates Phase 5. This was presented to City Council, and a development agreement was initiated with the developer back in 2017. A construction plat was presented to this board on April the 28th of 2022 for 98 single-family residential homes. Today, the applicant is submitting a final plat application for the 98 residential lots, and our office has reviewed the civil set, construction plat, and additional studies, and find the application complies with the original standards as outlined in the development agreement. Staff recommends approval of final plat 2410 for Phase 5.
Do I have a motion for final plat 24-10? I have a motion to approve final plat 24-10. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 7.5.
Commissioners, same thing. This is Phase 6. It was originally 45 residential lots. It is tied to a development agreement approved by City Council in 2017. The construction plat was brought to you on April 28th of 2022, and staff recommends approval of final plat 2411 for the Creekside Estates Phase 6.
It's just a final plat, so.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, do we have a motion on final plat 24-11?
Make a motion, we approve action item 7.5.
I have a motion to approve 7.5, final plat 24-11. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, motion carries. Looks like that's all the action items for tonight. We do have a little business to discuss, Commissioners.
Yes, Commissioners, I wanted to remind you that on November the 7th at 5:30, back here, we're going to have a special meeting. We will have our staff recommendations for our zoning ordinance. We've encouraged you, if you see anything in our zoning ordinance book, and if you need a copy, please get with Katie or myself, and we can print you a hard copy again in a binder. But we're looking to do some cleanup, and there, like Raylan had stated in her PowerPoint presentation, there were some things that needed to be cleaned up. So we would like to work out those things at the workshop on the 7th of November, and then we'll bring it back before you in a public hearing setting on November the 21st for recommendation for approval and for City Council. And it will be presented to City Council in December with hopefully activation in January of 2025.
Commissioners, please make sure we look at it. That way by the time we get here, if you have any questions, it's a lot of homework, but get to it, please. That way we don't overrun with new knowledge, or something.
You can bring them, well, that'd be great. Yeah, if you want to bring them, then that way I can at least tell you that it's part of our comments that staff is already working on. But yes, send it to, email it to me, and maybe share it with the group. That way, if they have some of the same questions, you're knocking that out. Okay.
Any other questions in regards to this meeting?
Can any of you think of that you don't have an ordinance, a printed ordinance, or would like one? And we'll start working on putting that together? Or did you all get one when you?
It's online, so you can start, it's available there too.
Yeah, I've seen it on there.
Not the new one, because it's not been drafted and approved, so I
Yeah.
can't really, I don't want that thing floating around, because someone's going to take the gospel on it.
Are we going to address when's the next time we're due to order a new comprehensive plan? Is that coming up anytime soon?
Comprehensive plan for the city?
Yeah,
No, there's no plans for it right now. in
Okay.
25.
okay.
Brought that up during the budget year to evaluate, it's, our last one was 17 or 19, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, COVID
But
kind
the
of,
main thing
I think a
is,
lot of people are putting a larger
We
gap
got
right now.
we got a larger city limits, so I think it's gonna be warranted probably at the end of 25 into 26. And that's a very big public
Yeah.
thing. So it's not just a few of us in the house going, what do you think? So that's a major orchestrated process.
Cool. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thanks, sir. Any other questions in regards to our meeting, November 7th, Commissioners? No? Okay. I don't know if we have, ma'am, are we going into executive session, or no executive session?
No executive session tonight.
Well, in that case, Commissioners, thank you for coming out tonight, and meetings